Welcome to Joy News Prime. Our headlines this hour. Supreme Court in a unanimous 7-0 decision dismisses minority MPs' injunction case against e-levy.
So I think that on all accounts, they really had no case, and I'm very much satisfied by the outcome of today's process.
Meanwhile, telecommunications company MTN says challenges with repayment of wrongly deducted monies may persist until the single platform is fully operational by July this year. New Patriotic Party hits back at recent reports saying press freedom is under attack in the country, arguing journalists are completely free and there is no state-sponsored impediment against them. Stay with us. We have details as President of the Ghana Journalists Association calls on IGP Dampari to redeem his promise to arrest perpetrators of abuse against journalists. I will also fact-check claims made by former President John Mahama on the economy at a recent event in Accra dubbed Ghana at the Crossroads.
Is not only experiencing a rise in inflation, but also an all-time high unemployment rate.
And the number of street beggars in Accra continues to increase by the day, most of them from neighboring countries. My colleague Justice Bedu has been engaging some of them.
Poverty is what forced us out of our country. We began begging when we left home.
And obviously at 8 p.m. I would hand it over to Charles and Gary for Prime Business and Prime Sports. Charles, what's coming up in business?
Well, tonight, the Ghana Mine Workers Union is threatening an industrial action if the consistent employment of workers through contractual basis persists.
With this can now, the future will be a major worry for all of us. So labor law reform is important. But it's also important that collective action becomes an alternative.
So in sports, for the 2023 AFCON qualifiers, Ghana begin at the Cape Coast Stadium. The decision has been made by the Confederation of African Football. We'll have details of how that decision was reached and when the game will be played.
And as always, we are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. I'm Blessed Sogah. Stay for details. Join. Supreme Court in its 7-member panel has unanimously thrown out the interlocutory injunction on the e-levy implementation filed by 3 members of parliament from the minority. It has, however, ordered the Ghana Revenue Authority to keep accurate records of the e-levy transactions. The court cited a possible hardship on the economy if the injunction is granted. My colleague Samuel Mbura was at the court and filed this report.
Supreme Court in its ruling raised issues of the nature of the reliefs sought by the applicants, Harun Idrisu and 2 others in the substantive matter, the inconvenience or loss to be suffered, including refunding the numerous tax deductions. The court speaks about the nature of the law under attack, the public interest and welfare of Ghanaians, the legal principle of presumption and regularity as enacted in the evidence decree. The court said the Republic would suffer a great deal if the government is temporarily stopped from deducting the levy from electronic transactions, and noted that mechanisms do exist within the current tax regime to refund payees who have either overpaid or wrongfully paid, and that must be taken advantage of. The court said while GRA can do a refund should the substantive case be won, the GRA cannot recover the levy if the substantive case is lost. In our opinion, greater hardship will be on the state, and the balance of power tilts in favor of the state. We order the GRA to keep accurate records of the amounts deducted so that at the end of the substantive matter, nobody will be disadvantaged. Addressing the media after the court proceedings, Minority Leader Harun Idrisu told the media after the court proceedings that they were satisfied with the performance of their lawyers. He indicated that the directive to the GRA to preserve the transaction record was in the right direction.
We remain determined that even on the balance of weighing monetary considerations against the weight of a constitutional breach, the emphasis should be on what harm we are doing to the 1992 Constitution and the 3 co-equal organs of states. So in the determination of whether some irreparable damage or hardship will be caused, our hardship as we understand it is the disrespect to the Constitution by the action of passage into law of an Act 1075, with numbers below the minimum constitutional threshold of 138 members of parliament. Can you imagine? I heard the Attorney General laboriously arguing that it was a voice vote. So Ebenezer Kum voted with his voice from an ambulance, or he voted with his voice from a clinic to add to the voice vote, and he is insisting that 266 members of parliament participated in the decision and participated in the motion. 266 members of parliament, after the minority of 136 walked out. Certainly, these are matters that the Ghanaian public can judge better. But what is refreshing and heartwarming today is the second part of the ruling, which gives directives to the Ghana Revenue Authority to preserve and keep the money. At least some people will not be in a rush to collateralize it until the substantive matter is determined.
But the Attorney General, Godfrey Dami, said the court's decision confirms his argument that the application was factually uncertain.
You saw what happened in court today. It was an embarrassing spectacle. The lawyer clearly was not able to demonstrate any form of irregularity with proceedings in Parliament. The court asked him, so is there any record that indicates that X number of MPs worked out at a certain stage? Is there any record that shows that a head count of all the MPs in Parliament was taken? That was not done. He said, absolutely said no. There was no evidence indicating whether there was a head count of the number of MPs present in Parliament who voted to support the bill. There's also nothing provided by the lawyer that indicated that there was a walkout by X number of people in Parliament. So I think we should ignore all that propaganda. In court, we adduce evidence of matters that we can prove, and we apply the law to a resolution of the issues in question. And clearly, today, the proceedings were quite obvious that there was no form of irregularity whatsoever in the proceedings of the day 29th March 2022.
The writ filed on March 2022 that seeks to declare the passage of the E-Levy Act 2022, Act 1075, as unconstitutional and should be set aside is yet to be heard by the court. For Joy News, Samuel Mbura reporting.
Communications company MTN says the challenges in the repayment of wrongly deducted e-levy monies may persist until July this year. CEO of MTN Mobile Money, Eli Haney, indicated on the Super Morning Show that the process of repayment of wrongfully deducted funds will be different from the current process when the single platform becomes operational for telcos on July 1.
Let me track back. So initially, the SIM registration deadline was end of March. That has been moved forward. Now, in the implementation, that will now derive the use of the SIM registration using the GRA's common platform is now the July 1. So essentially, that is when we get the full scope, and then we are able to complete the identification on either party. Right. And so with that realization and realizing we would not be able to achieve that now, is then the opportunity for those who may have been wrongly taxed to complain and get the refund. So that's why the refund process is there. And that's why for this particular modified approach, the refund process will be different from when we go into the full implementation, because the conditions will be different.
So does that suggest that we will be having some of these issues and a requirement of a refund until July?
Yes, with the modified approach that we've implemented, we do not have visibility on the other side, so that scenario may arise. I was telling someone that usually you look at the scenarios and you look at the percentage occurrence.
Usually, for the kinds of transaction trends we see, people will normally not send money to themselves on another wallet. It will be to their bank account or from their bank account to their wallet. So that scenario itself is a very minor part of the total volume. And so once we put in an efficient refund process, it should be able to handle the numbers that will be on that side until we are fully operational on July 1 with the full.
So what exactly are the current challenges, and why is there a difficulty in refunding a wrongful deduction? Dr. Ken Ashigbe joins us live on the line with some answers. Doc, thank you for your time. How is day 4 of the implementation looking like from the telco's point of view?
I think this point should be made that, and we keep repeating it, the e-levy implementation is not done by the telco. It's done by the electronic money issuer. Which is distinct. It's just like saying Joy News, Joy FM is distinct from Adom FM corporate-wise. So that exactly, so there's the EMIs who are doing it. And I think, the whole process, it's continuous improvement. So most of the challenges that, we saw at the beginning, the necessary works have been done on them and, they're being resolved. The points that has been made about for this particular phase approach, and as was said by Ellie, the numbers of people who will be sending money to their own wallets on other platforms, it's not that many. And so those ones, there's an efficient refund system in place that once you ask for the refund and you provide the ID that you used at the other end, as well as the transaction number, those refunds should be done for you. Apart from that, generally, I think day 4, everything is as has been planned.
Right. Doc, it's good that you're touching on that point because more people are complaining of challenges in getting their refunds. Why are the telcos having challenges to simply refund monies deducted from the wallets wrongly?
This you're not listening to. I said the telcos are not involved in this electronic money issue. It's the electronic money issuers. And I don't know who says if you look at the SLAs that are involved in getting these deductions, what would have to happen is that the checks would have to be made. You need to bear in mind that for this particular phase, there's no visibility for the EMI to whom you send the money to see who actually is the owner of that number on the other end. So those checks would have to be made, and they have to satisfy themselves that the ID you have provided and the transaction number you have given, that is actually you, and the transfers would have to, the refunds would have to be made. And so far, the data I am having, the reversal processes have not been any different from what happened. You know that typically, if you should send money to somebody and you realize that you had made an error in who you're sending it to, the same processes you would call your network, your electronic money provider, you would call the person to say, okay, this had been inadvertently done. The same checks that they have to do, they would have to go through that before the reversals are made for you. And it's the same processes that are currently happening. And so I would just entreat that this is just the 4th day of this particular operation. There might be some customers, if there are even some delays, they should bear with us. I'm pretty sure the processes will be fast-tracked as we go along.
Dr. Ken Ashigbe, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Joining me now on the phone lines as well, and also via Zoom, is Isaac Kobna Mwako, a member of the E-Levy Technical Committee and Head of Project Unit at the Transformation Office at GRA. Thank you so much, Isaac, for your time. So, first of all, how is day 4 looking like in terms of the implementation of the E-Levy?
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, that's loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Yes, day 4, things are moving on smoothly. The challenges we found on day 1, as Doctor has already told you, They were anticipated because the charging entities don't have visibility to other charging entities. Transaction will persist, and customers are supposed to report, and their refunds will be made once the system becomes a bit stable. So on day 4, for us, we think everything is moving on very smoothly. We are expecting the first payments to be made to the GRA. Already, we've seen some payments coming. I believe by tomorrow we would see much more payments hitting our payment platform.
I'm sure
so far so good.
I'm sure that you're receiving complaints different from when it started in terms of the implementation of the e-levy. What's the GRA doing to address some of these new challenges?
So far, we've not had any new challenge apart from people sending to themselves and they being charged, which the law says they shouldn't. So that is the first category, and majority of the complaint falls in that category. And we have understanding with the charging entities that they will resolve these within 72 hours. We are hoping the first tranche of refunds or reversals will happen probably by close of day today. So God willing, tomorrow we will get confirmation whether they have happened or not.
Isaac, I'm grateful.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Now, the New Patriotic Party says John Mahama's claim that the future NDC government will repeal the e-levy is a scam. According to the governing party, the former president failed to respect the repeal, the toll tax in his tenure, despite a similar promise by the NDC prior to the 2008 elections. At a news conference this afternoon, Yaw Buabenga Samoa asked Ghanaians to disregard the promise from John Dramani Mahama.
Ladies and gentlemen, in his 23-page paper, as you are all aware, delivered, the NDC aspirant for flag bearer artfully skips his gargantuan false investment into establishing the interoperability platform. $1.2 billion. $1.2 billion was contracted to install a platform that fell short of allowing bank accounts to speak to Momo wallets for only $4.5 million. And look at the difference. 1.2 billion. 1.2 billion for a substandard application and a higher spec application for only $4.5 million. And that system that was installed has grown revenue from internet businesses, internet usage, internet financial transactions from GHS 78 billion in 2016 to nearly 1 trillion cedis by end 2021. Even so, the John Mahama endorsed company sought damages in court in excess of $400 million for no work done. He doesn't state this in his paper. He only glosses over it and says that they've done a lot of work. His government about interoperability. But he forgets to tell us that he was going to waste 1.2 billion, not million or billion of taxpayer funds on a system that could not deliver what is being delivered now for $4.5 million. I think it's about 2,600%, the difference. That's John Mahama for you. Finally, please look at the claim to repeal e-levy. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a scam. Just like one-time premium and the repeal of top tax. It is a scam. In any event, can John Mahama explain the difference in his 17.5% tax on financial transactions and his manifesto pledge to impose a uniform tax on all electronic transactions? Are these measures e-levy in disguise? And does he still stand by those measures? Because in the one instance, he implemented, the MPP repealed the 17.5% tax on financial transactions. MPP repealed it. In the other instance, it was in his 2020 manifesto that he was going to apply a uniform tax to all electronic transactions. What was that? Is that different from the e-levy, or it is the name that he is yet to find?
Yaw Buabenga also took on claims by John Mahama that the NPP's economic record is the worst in recent times. He maintains the NPP has a far superior economic record compared to that of John Mahama.
Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest gap in John Mahama's approach to your political feelings is his refusal to acknowledge the true impact of COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war on the economy of Ghana. Whilst he opts to believe beyond the shores of Ghana, his hope of election lies in misrepresenting the state of Ghana to the extent that he even ignores the bare truth that the IMF and the World Bank put out at the end of the program he put us into. Yes. If the NDC still accepts IMF and World Bank projections, is the 5.4% projected growth for 2022 still valid? As we speak, even with the major difficulties we have, international multilateral agencies, the IMF and the World Bank in the lead, are saying that Ghana's economy is going to grow by 5.4% this year, 2022. And yet, John Mahama says it is the worst economy he has seen in the world. I believe it is better than the 3.4% he left us in 2016. Without COVID and the pandemic, without the further crisis being caused by the war, Ukraine and Russia, he still left us a plunge in growth to 3.4%. He should compare that to the 5.4% being predicted and let us know whether or not that represents the worst economy ever in Ghana.
Claimed in his presentation that the government has mismanaged COVID-19 funds, but Boabin Asamoah says John Mahama has no evidence to back this claim and is only seeking to make government unpopular.
In terms of COVID-19 funds, the aspirant Mahama and NDC keep clutching at straws as if there are no public accountability rules in Ghana. In any event, at the May Day parade, the president in his speech stated clearly that the loss of expected revenue in excess of GHS 12 billion and increases in expenditure amounting to GHS 14 billion gave a combined profile of about GHS 27.3 billion, a whopping 6.8% of GDP, due directly to COVID-19. And John Mahama finds it convenient to quote 30 billion, do all the mathematics, add all the figures, and end up at 30 billion. Well, if he cares to see, we are also talking about 27 billion, 27.3 billion, directly as a cause of COVID. So if you allow the public accountability institutions to work, we will find a clear conclusion about COVID mathematics. An objective content analysis of the nearly 30 presidential updates delivered by President Akufo-Addo and international assessments shows the progressive and largely successful policy framework pursued by the NPP administration in controlling the pandemic. The desperate self-serving assessments of the NDC, John Mahama, and its dysfunctional COVID-19 team do not reflect the reality of the world or Ghana as far as COVID management is concerned.
Well, let's stay on the governing New Patriotic Party because the party is challenging recent international reports that have cast the country in a poor light in terms of media freedoms. Ghana's performance in the 2022 Press Freedom Index has been described as the worst in close to 2 decades, ranking 60th out of 180 countries. 30 places dropped from last year when we placed 30th. The ranking attributed Ghana's slump to the intolerance on the part of the government and arrest of journalists using the law on publication of false information. A recent BBC report also impugned the country's press freedom credentials. But speaking at the press conference this afternoon, Communications Director of the NPP, Boabin Asamoah, said Ghana's media is the freest and there's no state-sponsored impediment in the way of journalists.
The NPP tradition fought consistently for the recognition of the core democratic rights to governance in terms of association and movement, and in addition to speech, with successive constitutions preceding the Fourth Republic accepting and implementing these rights. We, the NPP, repealed the criminal libel law and rationalize the role of the NCA as a regulator par excellence. The real challenge now is balance. Recent reports, both internal and external, hyperbolically declaiming the supposed loss of media freedom in Ghana, are painting and playing up a picture of systematic harassment against free speech. But is it truly the case? And does mainstream media and civil society experience that in their daily lives and activities? Moreover, is free speech limitless? And can it be mischievously used as an instrument to foster instability? These are key questions, objective answers to which can dampen the scurrilous damage to hard-earned political stability and potential growth in the name of regime change. The MPP believes Ghana media is the freest ever, and that its contributions to media growth are unparalleled in the Fourth Republic. In sum, MPP decriminalized speech, supported infrastructure and training with the International Press Center and support funds, and improved spectrum allocation and regulatory oversight. Free speech will continue its healthy climb under successive MPP administrations. Secondly, another heading, a broken social contract. John Mahama woefully fails at painting an abysmal picture of democracy since 2017, insinuating a breach of promises. So again, media and civil society.
But at a ceremony to mark World Press Freedom Day today, the Ghana Journalists Association lamented the country's slump on the international ranking and described it as depressing. According to the GJA president, Dr. Afel-Moni, the IGP has failed to live up to his promise to find and prosecute abusers of journalists, including those who attacked our colleague Lateef Idris and killers of investigative journalist Ahmed Swale.
It is with a heavy heart that I welcome you all to the 2022 World Press Freedom Day. Heavy heart because of Ghana's latest ranking in the World Press Freedom Index, which is depressing enough to effect dramatic mood swings from one of celebration to that of lamentation. Indeed, a drop in ranking had been anticipated due to a confluence of anti-media factors, but never did we expect the drop to be so precipitous, third in Africa and 10th in the world, and 30th in the world to 60th, a 100% decline. We watched with shudder and heard with shiver the merciless arrests, reckless attacks, and animalistic disregard for the rights of journalists, even in the line of duty. The deterministic outcome has been a sharp deterioration of the safety of journalists. That threat reigned on investigative journalists also went uninvestigated, let alone punished, while law enforcement officers who were supposed to protect journalists rather brutalize them. 3 years on the spin, the assassination of Ahmed Swale of Tiger Eye fame, in the most heinous of circumstances, has been a stain on Ghana's reputation as a land of freedom and justice, a citadel of media freedom, and a beacon of democratic accomplishment in Africa. Assurance upon assurance of arresting the perpetrators have remained a hollow rhetoric.
Now, for his part, Chairman of the National Media Commission, Yao Boydu Aiboafo, whilst condemning attacks on journalists, asked journalists as well and other media practitioners to be responsible in their line of duty and not to use their medium to denigrate other people.
And what is important for me is the fact that it demonstrates that we are becoming conscious that the media is critical for national development. And therefore, whatever that we do in the management of the media is of prime interest to every one of us. And that is where we need to establish our individual and our collective responsibility in maintaining a media that is relevant, that is free, that is independent, but that which is equally responsible. You know, because at the end of the day, if we did not like totalitarianism, we equally did not like authoritarianism, so also did we not find comfort with libertarianism. And that's the reason why the Hutchins Commission in the US, at the end of the day, came out with the social responsibility theory. And it is imperative for those of us in Ghana that because we are interested in what concerns us, in any of the discussions that we have, we must remind ourselves of Article 41. Now, Article 41 is a thrust of the philosophy of social responsibility. Now, what social responsibility means is this, that we must be free to express ourselves, but we must take responsibility for the free expression that we express. And so, the bottom line in the discussion about media freedom on all that is this, that any one of us can say whatever that we want to say, and nobody should prevent us from doing that. But after we have said what we want to say, if it offends the sensitivities and sensibilities of other people, we must pay compensation. Because our rights is no more important than the right of anybody. And I think that one of the people that we admire in the US system, one of the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, he has said that if you shout fire in a crowded meeting place and somebody is trampled upon and that somebody dies, it is the responsibility of the one who cried a false cry of fire.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We'll be back after this short break. And you're welcome back. It's time for fact-checking now, and today we put a spotlight on claims made by former President John Dramani Mahama on the economy at a recent event in Accra dubbed Ghana at the Crossroads. Isaac Ofieje is with our research desk and now joins me in studio with more on the claims and their respective verdicts. First of all, let's start with the former president's claim on unemployment.
Data from the Ghana Statistical Service indicates that our nation is not only experiencing a rise in inflation, but also an all-time high unemployment rate of 13.4%.
Well, so the verdict is here. Kofi, what more do we know?
Well, this is true. So indeed, if you look at volume 3E of the Ghana Statistical Service report on the 2021 population and housing census, right, you could see that Ghana's unemployment rate 15 years and above is indeed 13.4%, blessed.
Well, so we can now also focus on his claims when it comes to inflation.
Has risen from 8% in March 2021 to 15.7% in February 2022 and currently to 19.4% in March 2022.
Well, so it appears that there's more from Kofi Ajay on this one. Kofi, what do we know about the inflation rate?
All right, so the former president's claim on inflation, you know, February for 2021 and March 2022 are both correct. So if you look at the inflation rate for for February 2022 and March 2022, you can see that it is indeed 15.7 and 19.7 and
March 2022.
Exactly, and then 19.4% respectively. But his claim that inflation has risen from 8% March 2021 to 19.4 in March 2022 is actually false. If you look at the Ghana Statistical Service...
So it's not entirely the case,
exactly,
right?
So if you look at the Ghana Statistical Service inflation bulletin, you could see that the March inflation was rather 10.3% and not 8% as indicated by the former President Mahama.
Anyway, Isaac Kofi Ajay is with our research desk here at Joy News. We're grateful. To the Ashanti region now, the Mensah Government Hospital has debunked reports that nurses deserted their duty post, leading to the death of a middle-aged woman on admission. Humuni Fusaini died on admission at the hospital at dawn on Monday, but shortly after, a journalist put up a Facebook post indicating she died because there was no nurse on duty to attend to her. The post has since gone viral, but the hospital says the deceased was admitted and given the best of care. Love FM's Erastus Asari Donko has more in this report.
The Facebook post showing a video of a broken and teary Hudu Sulemana, husband of the deceased, said in part, quote, Mr. Hudu Sulemana has lost his wife at the Menchia District Hospital in Kumasi of the Ashanti region today, Monday, May 2nd, 2022. The disheartening part of it being that his wife died as a result of intentional no-nurse syndrome, unquote. In the video, husband of the deceased is heard saying his wife's sugar level was checked every 30 minutes and was asked to buy medications.
30 minutes beer, or check sugar. 30 minutes beer, or check sugar. Eba I say, me say no, Sikana or Jimmy Sono.
But the brain behind the post, Isaac Insia Foster, explains why he accuses the hospital of negligence.
Because personally, I was standing right beside a woman and I saw the woman suffering. I saw the woman, he was, I don't know how to put this, his heart was beating faster. So if there was a net around, I think that maybe she or he could report to the doctor in charge so that she could be saved. But unfortunately, there was no one around to report to the doctor. So the doctor came late. He couldn't do anything to save the woman.
But management of the Menchia Government Hospital says the post is misleading and inaccurate. Clinical care coordinator of the hospital, Dr. Michael Opoku, says the deceased Humu Fuseni was admitted on the 30th of April and given the needed care before her demise.
The first of the case is that this patient, as I said, was on admission at the emergency department and was given care 24/7. The doctors attended to her, the nurses at the emergency department were also there to also do their bit. The assertion that she came, there was no nurse, and she was never attended to and didn't receive the best of care, needed to be treated with the contempt it deserves.
Medical superintendent of the hospital, Dr. Kamaruddin Koku Hussein, told our news team the uninformed social media comment has demoralized staff.
It is highly demoralizing because, especially when you know that what is written there is not the truth. Your staff are demoralized and then they will be wondering whether the service that we are providing is appreciated by the public.
The Health Services Administrator of the Menchia Government Hospital, Rosemond Ofuriamanfo, called for public education on the activities of the hospital.
Sometimes we need to educate them on some of these issues. That when you come to a hospital, you don't just pick phones and start videoing people who are bereaved or people who are in pain. Then you move to social media and place it there.
In an interview with husband of the deceased, Hudu Sulemana, he said he doesn't have any issue with the hospital and does not believe there is any problem, as the Facebook post suggests.
Now, in 2017, government promised to get street children out of the dangers of the street life. The Ministry of Gender and Social Protection set up the operation Get Off the Streets, but for a better life. More than 4 years on, the situation seemed to have gotten out of hand, with minors even from neighboring West African countries flooding the highways of Ghana to beg. In the following report, our reporter Justice Bedu digs into a crass street begging problem.
This is one of Accra's dirty little secrets.
It's the dead of the night on a cold street in the capital. This is home to hundreds of people who sleep rough in downtown Accra.
It's almost like a mini refugee camp here. The children who live here and their parents have come from West African countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Most of them sleep rough on hard pavements like this. And if you walk right up the street, there are hundreds more who sleep like this till morning, all in this Accra neighborhood of Abose Okai. The people who live here who have been speaking to me say on a daily basis, hundreds of them arrive in buses to Accra.
Matsalar babu ce ta kamu da mu da yaran mu muke tahi. Muna tahiya kadan inda muka kwana uku hudu biyar goma wani guri sati biyu.
Poverty is what forced us out of our country. We began begging when we left home. We spent 3 months on our journey with our kids. Our government does not help us. We are only here because of poverty. When we get what we want, we'll go back.
In yanzu Allah ba mu abin da muke nema in mun kai jibi mun dade a kasar wannan. Ai ta hakuri da mu.
Habibu Ademu is 10. Like many of the children here, his parents brought him from Niger. Their journey, he says, took them 3 months, making several stops until they got to Accra, where they have been begging for alms for a year now.
They beat us every day on the streets. They abuse us. They ask us to go and work because we are able. One day, a car ran over my hand and it got broken. This job is tough. We need help. Some came for food, but others are also looking for more. For me, I wished I could go back to school, but we can't afford it. This is the reason we came to beg. We have been here for 2 weeks now.
As dawn breaks, the children and their parents flood the streets of Accra, hand in arms. This is the Achimota overhead on the busy N1 highway. They run after every car in sight.
Muna bara muna neman kuɗi, ana zagin mu, ana dukan mu, ana cin mu je mu yi sana'a. Muna da ƙarfi amma sana'an bai zo mana da sauki, yana zo mana cikin wahala ne. Kun gane, ku taimaka. Ni kan wani ma ya karya ma an gyara hannu. Ƙanwata ta karya ma an gyara hannu. Mun kashe kuɗi da yawa. To shikenan ya bin da zan faɗi da ka cire min abin da ka wajen baki.
More than 61,000 persons below the age of 18 are living on the streets of Accra alone, according to a 2021 study by the Center for Social Policy Studies at the University of Ghana. The Beggars and Destitutes Act of 1969 makes begging criminal. And yet, like many other laws in Ghana, there's rarely any enforcement.
The ministry has initiated a program that hashtag Operation Get Off the Street Now for a Better Life. Everybody deserves a better life. The objective is to reduce the phenomenon of persons living on the street with such dreams that they cannot be held back. Data collection to create a database is ongoing with 4,098 children already registered. Shelters have also been identified for us to begin this very month to move our children and persons and families off the streets into homes whilst we organize the reintegration for those who can go back home, those who can go back to school, and those who will be embarking on various training and capacity building activities in terms of income generating activities.
This is then Gender Minister Otiko Afisa Jaba speaking in 2017.
I can actually liken it to a situation of a time bomb that's about to take off.
Elikem Awuye is a child protection activist with the rights campaign group International Needs. She has spent years studying the subject and rescuing some victims of the streets.
Streetism is also like a very lucrative economic venture in Ghana, where you see children begging, selling, and doing all kinds of things on the streets. So that economic aspect that deals with the poverty they are going through does not make them want to leave the streets. So they'll rather stay there and survive than to leave the street.
The Ministry of Gender, which made a promise to end this menace 4 years ago, did not speak to me for the story, saying they were on strike.
It's also part of the reason we have high numbers of adolescent pregnancies, drug abuse, HIV, kidnappings, and all that, which are very, very serious issues. I remember a girl once told me how through the traffic, men give out their numbers. They write their numbers on small pieces of papers. And, they are sitting in luxurious cars and all, so they look rich. So these girls will call, hoping that they'll get something in return. And sometimes the men come, sleep with them, infect them, impregnate them, and they are gone. And so they can't even find the fathers of their children.
Back on the streets and right at this traffic light elsewhere around Kokomlemle, another suburb of Accra, the kids are hard at work. With them, minors as young as 2. Road users seem to have had enough too.
Sometimes you feel like giving them something, but the more you give, the more it's like you're encouraging them to do it. I don't like seeing the mothers and the parents sitting there whilst we see these children crossing through the traffic and everything. I don't know. No, with these motor riders, the motorbikes passing in between the traffic, I don't think it's safe for them to.
With very little in social protection for vulnerable people like these children, more of their likes continue to flood our streets, and it seems there is no end in sight. Justice Baidu, Joy News, Accra.
Well, so you know what time it is. It's time to check out what's happening in the world of entertainment. Ibrahim Ben Bako, IB, I love to call him. He's here. And we're looking forward to this weekend.
Yes, this weekend the VGMA is just around the corner. And for artist of the, for Discovery artist, right, Kweku Darlington has been talking, and he says that he is rather looking at wanting to win collaboration of the year. This is Kweku Darlington on the morning show at Hit FM with Andy Dosty.
People are entitled to their opinions, but ultimately, I think the same people who are talking about this thing are the same people who have been asking for the favor and the grace of God. And the same favor and the grace of God is working, and hard work is working for someone, and we are going against it. But I think ultimately, all things work together for good. So I'm good.
Yeah. Collaboration for which song? This song right here? The remix. Okay. And then hip hop song, same song?
Yes, Ikabefi.
Okay. It seems it's gonna really work for you. Which one are you winning?
Probably collaboration of the year.
Collaboration of the year.
Yeah.
Why?
Because Sikabefi wasn't just a street anthem, it wasn't just a hip hop song. It was a motivational song as well. Like the people love the song.
It was a great tune.
It was a great tune, yeah. Right? You also second it.
Okay. Some way, somehow.
Well, Krakasa has been taking twice at Burna Boy for performing Kweku the Traveler at his Madison Square Garden show. But Sadiq, that is CEO of 3 Music Awards, is saying that we should rather commend Burna Boy for performing that song because he has actually given a global activation to the song.
It's actually a very, very good thing that Burna Boy is actually performing the song that he has with Blacko. Most importantly, also getting people to play it. Today, concerts, beyond providing the entertainment experience, live experiential music experience to the audience there, are also activation points for the music. Yeah. So look at the number of people that were there. If you got a certain percentage of these people shazamming and going to find the song, these are direct streams that will require some heavy marketing budget to be able to do. Yeah.
So regardless whether Blacko is on the tour with him or not, it's a very, very good thing. I mean, I know that it's our wish that most Blacko would get opportunity to perform in front of crowds such as this, which is a good thing. If it happens, all well and good. But if it doesn't, we still need to give Burna Boy his flowers for activating Blacko's music.
Right.
I mean, two of the songs, the second sermon, the remix that has him on it, and then Kweku the Traveler, it was played to that people that was there, and you could see the reaction.
Yeah.
I mean, at the point in time when the DJ brought it down, when he said, "Who never stumbles has it there."
Right.
When they brought it down, you could see the entire auditorium or venue saying, "No hands."
No hands.
And that was Sadiq in the studios of Joy 99.7. But Burna Boy himself was on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and he says that people should actually get used to him setting records and marking the strides. Boy on Trevor Noah.
I guess
show.
that's why he's the African giant. Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
but we're actually looking at what is going to happen come Friday and Saturday at the VGMAs.
We're on the lookout for that. Thanks, IB. But that's all we have for you here on Joy News Prime. I'm blessed.